Inclusive education in tertiary institutions in Nigeria. In 2006, Nigeria became a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and ratified the treaty. In 2017, Nigeria passes its national legislation, Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act in 2018. However, obstacles to quality education have been an unpleasant reality for a lot of young persons with disabilities. This documentary examines a movement that is transforming the life of young persons with disabilities, dismantling obstacles and creating inclusive and accessible spaces. The path towards inclusive education, which gives every young person with disabilities the opportunity to develop, learn, and prosper.
Education is a fundamental right, as we all know, and everybody is entitled to quality education. Nobody should be discriminated or stigmatized based on their diversity or any form of disability.
This project is supported by the United States Agency for International Development and implemented through Palladium, Nigeria.
The SCARE project is really very big on the issues of gender equity and social inclusion. And in Nigeria, when the SCARE project thought about its inclusivity component, no other partner came to mind as strong as JONAPWD.
136 stakeholders were involved in our political economic analysis across the 5 focal states and the FCT. This research exploratively examined the implementation of inclusive education through the lens of the provisions as contained in Article 24 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, UNCRPD, and Part 5 of the Nigerian Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018.
On this project, promoting inclusive education for young students with disability in tertiary institutions, conducted a PEA, Political Economic Analysis. On this PEA, we got some findings which informed our advocacy as the capacity gap 1. 2 were budgetary issues. 3 were access issues. We're able to develop plans, inclusive education work plan for government ministries across the focal states.
Inclusive education, to me, is a framework that demands or suggests that all children, irrespective of their ability or disability, to be allowed to learn together in the same classroom.
Inclusive education in students with disability and students without disability study together in the same environment and giving equal opportunities.
Children with intellectual disability, children with disability attending the same school with every other child that has no form of disability.
In Ondo State, the Nigerian Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act has been domesticated as a law. The state, at the primary and secondary levels, education is free for people with disability, while at the higher institutions, the student pays 50% of their tuition fee at the state university.
Nigerian University has been chosen as the pilot institution because we want to start with higher institution first. And we also went there, saw the VC, and saw the, we had a meeting with the management in order to create a conducive learning environment for persons with disabilities in the school.
Some students from Adekunle Ajasi University speaks on some challenges faced as young students with disabilities in their school.
In my department now, there was a time that I requested for a PDF material from the lecturer because the previous semester they scanned the notes. So the man was like telling us that because they scanned the notes that the student didn't pass. I felt that because the man is not does not really know anything about people living with disability, that if the awareness was enough, he won't utter that statement because it was offensive to me.
The school management also mentioned funding as a major challenge able to cater and accommodate students with disabilities within the school.
The funding situation, the university, or even the country now is dwindling, is going down. Because when you look at the amount of money they also require to pass through the system, is enormous. And that is the major challenge. The university cannot alone fund all these things.
We as a cluster saw this group and started advocating for inclusive education work plan at the state and institutional levels.
The school management has been giving part of our school fees by subsidizing it. Secondly, most of the facility in the school management has make it easy for people on wheelchair so that they will have access easily to their classrooms.
The dean of the faculty, that faculty of art, suggested that they should provide equipment for us when we are doing the exams, the way they provide answer booklets for the able ones. So that they should provide typing sheets since we bring our interpreter by ourselves.
In Ondo State, we were able to still work with some government ministries to draft an inclusive education plan, which is with the Ministry of Education, which is waiting for review and adoption of the policy. Ondo State is still far from being inclusive. The learning system and school structures are still inaccessible to students with disabilities, and assistive technology is also not available to students to aid their learning in the school environment. Our journey to disability inclusion for higher education learners started from Adekunle Ajasin University. Cross River, a state located in the southern part of Nigeria, has been doing a lot to promote inclusive education within the state. The Cross River State Government signed the Disability Law on 31st December 2021. The SKILL project has carried out several activities, including meeting up with relevant stakeholders to carry out advocacy visits.
So far, so good. We'll be able to, take up advocacy visits. Not only that alone, we've been able to make sure that we meet up with various stakeholders, the religious organization, the tertiary institution, and also the traditional rulers and member House of Assembly and the Minister of Education, and also heads of tertiary institution in Cross River State.
Assessing the facilities. Like now, most of the classrooms are upstairs and they can't get upstairs.
We procure computers with software that gives them the opportunity to work on. We don't have experts that could train the students.
With the advent of our erudite and quintessential Vice Chancellor, who is also a specialist in the issue that has to do with disability, there is a very robust enlightenment in University of Calabar now, that there is a level of inclusion both at the workforce and also at the student level.
Since the commencement of this program in the University of Calabar, we have seen a lot of impact.
During the congregation, we can see the sign interpreter coming up to do the sign language for those that are hearing impaired. As a visual impaired library is now being created in the University of Calabar. Before, there was nothing like that.
It might also impress you that as a result of this program, the Dean of Faculty of Student Affairs have been able to step up this program to ensure that during accommodation, starting for accommodation for freshers, persons with disability are given special consideration. We've been able to form an association, a national association of Nigerian students with disability.
I can testify before the whole world that the person speaking with you today is a beneficiary of inclusivity, if there had been no exclusion, if there had been no incorporation, if there had been no integration, I would have run away from this school before this day. But I see who University of Calabar in high esteem. Just like the scripture says, he lies me beside the still water. So University of Calabar is a still water for those living with disability. There is hope.
Bauchi State is situated in the northeastern part of Nigeria, the state known for its rich cultural heritage and diverse ethnic groups. The SCALE project selected 3 state-owned tertiary institutions to pilot the program.
The target of the project is to advocate for the inclusiveness in education in all basic tertiary institutions among students with disabilities.
Students and other stakeholders involved in tertiary education in Bauchi State talk about the challenges to inclusive education within the state.
I was there before 10. Then along the line, they decided to change the venue, and I was not aware. And where they fixed the venue, I was not able to access it because there's staircase. And everybody was like kind of rushing because all of them they are late. So I was like, how am I going to do?
We don't have specific road for a visually impaired to locate his lecture hall. It's a little bit difficult.
Basically, everything for the physically challenged is free. So getting fun to actually accommodate these services.
There is a lot of progress that has been achieved in implementing inclusive education within the state.
We have about 145 students with special needs that the college is taking care of freely in all the aspects. So as such, to us, it is a good development, and I believe more and more are coming.
From the first steps, I was given a scholarship in Bauchi State because our governor was really trying. And person with disability in Bauchi, from tertiary institutions, polytechnic, secondary school, and the rest, they are really playing a vital role. And also the school, they are really trying for person with disability, and also in terms of accessibility.
We are trying, in fact, every day to ensure that we give equal opportunity to everybody.
The following are some of the successes recorded so far in the pilot schools engaged. Aminu Saleh College of Education Azare Adoption have adopted the draft inclusive education policy. The project shoot up disability inclusion in employment opportunities for persons with disabilities. Tafawa Balewa Polytechnic gave an employment offer to 4 lecturers with disabilities, and our cluster member Akibu Bababa Ahmed was a beneficiary of this appointment. Our cluster in Bauchi, in collaboration with National Union of Bauchi State Students Association (NUBAS), initiated a bill on free education for persons with disabilities at the House of Assembly. Kaduna, a state in the north-central part of Nigeria, Kaduna State University was selected as the pilot tertiary institution within the state. On April 30th, 2021, the State Disability Bill was passed into law by the state government to crown the state's commitment on the inclusion of people with disabilities in all its state affairs.
Prior to this project, students with disability were in Kaduna State University. However, no one knew their presence, no one recognized their presence. Even within them, they didn't even know the issues other disability students were facing. So, but as a result of the coming of this project, we bring them together, which they form an association that speaks to their needs.
Some young students with disabilities in CASU speak about their challenges in accessing inclusive education within the school.
My greatest challenge, not being able to have my own notes. Maybe if they are writing their notes, I can't write the notes at that time. I have to collect the notes from someone, and if you're not the one that writes your notes from the first time, there are mistakes.
So now it's a very, it's a problem, it's a barrier for someone who has disability.
Well, I think the first level is awareness. Awareness is actually still low. Policymakers, until we bring it to their notice, are not so conscious of the needs, of persons with disability. The absence of a framework in terms of that implementation. Yes, we had an inclusive education policy in the state, but the need for a framework that defines what actions and what steps, the state government will be taking to make education inclusive has been lacking over the years.
The first step my school took about inclusive education was when we took the matter to the VC. He appointed a next officer for persons with disability, and she tried and informed almost all the lecturers about how to work with persons with disability.
We have an association which serves as an umbrella for us, the Association of Students with Disability, Kaduna State chapter.
One of the greatest achievements is as a result of this project, the projects have developed a policy on inclusive education, where we think once that policy is signed by the policymaker, particularly the governor, it will go a long way in creating more enabling environments for persons with disability, both in public and private schools.
Through the advocacy visit, which was also led by Association of Students with Disability to the Dean of Students Affairs, they also complained that the admission forms are not inclusive, which the Dean of Students Affairs also made commitment to make those forms inclusive.
Professor Abdullahi Musa, Vice Chancellor of Kaduna State University, requested that the students with disabilities in the school write a demand charter on their challenges and the solutions which the institution will implement. The SKILL project was implemented in Anambra, a state in the southeastern part of Nigeria. The Nnamdi Azikiwe University was selected as the pilot tertiary institution in the state.
Anambra State has Anambra State Disability Rights Law, and this law also empowers every person, especially persons with disability, to attain quality education to the degree and the extent they feel they want to attain that education.
Young students with disabilities in UNIZIC share some of their experiences accessing inclusive education within the school.
For me, my faculty, my classes are always held at the last floor, 3-story building, and that means every morning, I'll have to the climbing staircases up and down every day.
Why I'm making on my head is simply because I'm making use of a voice aid. If I should decide not to make use of the earpiece, the voice aid I'm using in operating that computer will be disturbing my colleagues. So I felt using that earpiece is a way of just keeping the voice aid to my own self. But most of these lecturers do not want to understand. Even when I try explaining to some of them, their belief is simply that I'm listening to a recorded note to write my answers.
They also spoke about the school's effort in creating a conducive learning environment for young persons with disabilities, as well as the impact the SKILL project has had on that.
When you come to Anambra State higher institutions, it is only UNIZIC that have a center that manages the affairs of persons with disabilities in their institution. They call it St. Listener.
During exam period, St. Listener, they've been helping. They always tell us that whenever you have challenges during exam period or you need assistance with reading out your exam questions and all that they should always contact the center.
The SKILL project has been an eye-opener to the school and beyond, because I can recall beyond going to radio stations, meeting with the HODs and some other persons who are in charge of day-to-day running of the school. I think we also went to Ministry of Education, Anambra State, and to be honest, the engagement was fruitful.
The SKILL project was able to bring other students on board. So a platform was created for students who are in the school to begin to discuss around issues that concerns them. Now, what that has done is it has placed them on a stronger footing. The SCALE project has given the students the platform that they can use to all come together and discuss issues that affect them, and then use that to engage the school management.
First, for the awareness on inclusive education was low, because they believe that, okay, if a person with disability probably will go for special needs education. So found out that they're not aware that they have persons with disability, especially the deaf. Where we are today at the University of Abuja is that right now we have drafted the inclusive education plan. We drafted this with the dean, with the dean of education, with so many department heads.
The House of Representative Chairman on Disability Matters spoke on the plans the Nigerian government has to enhance the delivery and implementation of inclusive education in Nigeria.
The issue of inclusive education. First is that every child has an unfettered right to education in Nigeria. That's the law of Nigeria. And we do know that even there will be challenge for the children that have disabilities. So that's why this is a very clear and specific part of the act. But meanwhile, we're doing a lot of awareness, we're doing a lot of advocacy so that we can make the community and the community at large to be aware of this particular act.
Further, the Director, Special Education, confirmed that the Ministry of Education is implementing several programs at both national and subnational levels to speed up the adoption of inclusive education in our tertiary institutions.
Generally, on inclusive education in our tertiary institution, it has been going on. Universities, higher institutions in Nigeria admit students with people with disability without any form of discrimination. Look at that, discover that what we are also proposing right now, as time goes on, we will now be having a general course that will cut across all departments so that we will be aware of inclusive education in Nigeria.
Now that we have gone almost a year into the implementation, I think we can all be very proud and confirm our motivation was on point because of the far-reaching impacts and results that we have achieved. We now have tertiary institutions creating disability desks and appointing desk officers. We have tertiary institutions now adopting the inclusive education framework. We have states that have drafted their inclusive education frameworks, and JONAPWD, our partner, also participating in the review of the national policy, which only recent as December got adopted, all just add up to strengthen and justify our motivation to have supported this project. So well done to JONAPWD.
I want to appreciate the SCALE Palladium project by including the JONAPWD in the process of inclusive education. That make large number of our community involved in the inclusive education.
The National Association of the Blind in Ondo State, National Association of the Deaf in Bauchi State, National Association of Physical Disabilities in Kaduna State, Spinal Cord Injuries Association of Nigeria in Cross River State, National Association of People Affected by Hansen Disease in Anambra State, and JONAPWD as anchor in this project worked together to implement the project advocacy and capacity strengthening of young persons with disabilities on inclusive education frameworks in Nigeria. We clamor and advocate for inclusive education for all persons with disabilities, and we seek everyone to join the movement.